welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be covering the Chicago Bears at the San Francisco 49ers. And this Week 2 matchup will be happening on September 14th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can catch that on your local NBC affiliate, as that is the Sunday night game of the week. So the Bears are going into San Francisco, and this is the home opener for San Francisco, as the 49ers are opening a new stadium, Levi Stadium, as this will be the first ever regular season game played at Levi Stadium. They played 2 preseason games there, but this is the first game that really counts. We saw in Week 1, the San Francisco 49ers came out strong. Their defense looked really good, despite being banged up. They got good performances out of the players that were there. Justin Smith had 2 sacks. Patrick Willis had 1 interception. And Ahmad Brooks had a sack as well. So those 3 stars came through, and the whole defense did it as a whole. As they really played really strong. They were up in Tony Romo's face. They caused that turnover. They got up on him real early, and they kept them down. They held them from coming back, as they mounted kind of a late comeback, but it was too little too late. And Colin Kaepernick was looking really impressive in Week 1. He only put up 201 yards, but he threw for 2 touchdowns, and he protected the ball. He didn't turn it over. He also was running on the ground, only 11 yards. So we'll see if he can run for more yards against Chicago, especially being there in San Francisco. You know, the Niners in that home opener are going to really come to play, put it all out on the field for their hometown fans. I mean, they already put a whooping on Dallas in Dallas. And do you really think Chicago, after not being able to beat Buffalo in Chicago, is going to travel on the road and go into San Francisco and beat the Niners in their home opener, their first game in Levi Stadium, as it were? And then we saw the last game at Candlestick Park. So that's where I called the park, just the Freudian slip. The last game at Candlestick Park was very exciting. That game they played against the Falcons. And this game could be very exciting as well, as the Bears do have a high-powered passing attack. Of course, that all relies on Cutler protecting the ball. He did have 349 yards passing in that loss, and he threw for 2 touchdowns, but he also threw for 2 interceptions. And that's the thing with Cutler. I mean, he's known as a gunslinger, and he gets that reputation not just for throwing touchdowns, but also for throwing interceptions. So he's got to protect that ball. Of course, they need to establish the run. Matt Forte did have 82 yards, but he only got 17 touches. He had a high average, but when he only gets 17 touches, that's really hard to establish the run, and it's hard to get over 100 yards off of just 17 carries. You're going to need to get at least 20. Forte also picked up 87 yards in receiving off the 8 catches. I mean, the offense was running through Forte. He was doing it all for Chicago. He led the team in total yards, and he led the team in rushing yards and receiving yards. So Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey each had 71 yards receiving. Marshall had a touchdown, and of course, Martellus Bennett had a touchdown as well with 70 yards also. So, I mean, the ball was being spread around by Cutler, but they really got to establish that run and then, get the ball more to the receivers and let Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey get yards after catch if they want to have any chance of beating the Niners, especially in San Francisco. They're going to have to get better play out of their defense. Of course, they did hold Buffalo, but then Buffalo was able to force it to overtime and win by a field goal. It's not as if Buffalo's really that much of a, potent offense, really. The Niners are much more dangerous, in all positions. Colin Kaepernick is a threat, as he showed. He's much more accurate with his arm this year. He's always a threat to run. Frank Gore, he's one of the more prolific runners of the past decade. Of course, Anquan Bolden, he's one of the top receivers in the league. He's definitely one of the toughest receivers in the league. He was just 1 yard shy of the century mark last week, and be going for 100 yards this week. Of course, Vernon Davis, he's one of the top tight ends. They need to get Crabtree more active. He only had 2 catches last week. He needs to have more catches. Against Chicago, the Niners should put up better numbers. Of course, this game has a chance of being high scoring, but then we consider the Niners defense. I mean, they can hold a team down. Last year, you remember when the Panthers came to San Francisco, that game was 10-9. Of course, the Panthers won that game, but that's not going to be the case here because the Bears, they don't have the defense the Panthers have. They don't have a defense that the Niners have. And Cutler, when he does make those turnovers, that will be the difference. And so the Niners should win this one, and they should win it easy, especially on prime time. The Niners always come, they play big on prime time. They really shine on prime time. So the Niners should win this one, potentially by double digits, although maybe the Bears keep it within a touchdown. Either way, San Francisco wins. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show.